All right, back by popular demand, our second part of the Trump voter panel. We're 18 months into Donald Trump's presidency, so we wanted to check in with how Trump voters are feeling today, particularly after the president's one-on-one visits with Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. So these voters you're about to meet are from California, Texas, Ohio, and New York. As you'll see, they are no longer like-minded as they were on Election Day about Donald Trump. Some say they regret their vote or are deeply disappointed, including one voter you're about to meet who resigned his GOP post in protest. Here now, Pulse of the People. How many of you, show of hands, were comfortable with the president's performance in Helsinki? 3 of you.
Yes.
And what did you think when the president stood on stage and said that he blamed America for many of the problems that we have with Russia?
I don't see him blaming all of us. And I also, you have to recognize that that's like a loaded question right there. He isn't blaming every
blaming our intelligence community.
All right, let's listen.
But I do blame the intelligence community. They are out of control.
I read the transcript.
I have it. Let's play it right now so we're all on the same page.
I hold both countries responsible. I think that the United States has been foolish. I think we've all been foolish.
I blame both countries. You're comfortable with him blaming the United States?
The day that we put America on the same platform with Russia is a very sad day for this nation.
What bothers me more is that I think he's a suck up to Vladimir Putin because I think obviously that country has something on him. Now, whether it's something legal, whether it's helping him get elected, whether, whatever it is, he has something on this guy. So he's going to do whatever he can to include Russia to make us kind of maybe on the same level.
If you're going to say that you believe that Russia has something on Trump, given the language and the rhetoric around the mainstream media and given the copious amounts of leaks that we've received all throughout this administration, do you not think that if there was something that was detrimental to President Trump's legitimacy or overall candidacy or fitness for office, do you not think that would not have been leaked by now? Because we're almost 2 years into his first term.
It's a possibility.
That's not necessarily correct. I mean, these investigations take time, and Mueller's what they're beating a dead horse
to be brought up with
for 2 years.
Do you accept that the Russians actually meddled and interfered in the 2016 election, as is the unanimous
I recognize that they did that, and they've done it before.
Okay,
they've tried to do that.
Okay, and
other countries.
And that's fine. That's fine. So I'm that Republican county chairman from Ohio that resigned after the Helsinki summit. So when the president in Helsinki said Putin had denied it strongly and forcefully, and he was in effect defending Putin's denial, do you accept that at face value?
I don't accept how you're characterizing it. What I see instead is a president who wants to establish strong relationships with every country as possible.
Here is what the president said. Okay. Here is what the president said about Vladimir Putin, so we can all hear it with our own ears. Listen to this.
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
When I heard that, at first I was shocked because I was like, we cannot be operating on this plane just from a purely optical perspective. But then when he came back later on and offered a correction and then changed would to wouldn't, now we can argue the semantics and however milquetoast that retraction was or that correction was all day long.
Did you believe him when he came back and said, I meant to say wouldn't?
I believed him. I did.
Oh, yeah. You thought he misspoke that first time.
I did.
To me, that's saying, okay, I'm just going to believe whatever Putin says instead of our own intelligence. So, yeah, I think he threw America under the bus.
I think it is important for our president to have strong relationships with everybody.
He is single-handedly weakening our alliances overseas.
No.
He has denuclearized North Korea.
How is North Korea nuclearized?
North Korea because he met with Kim Jong-un.
What is your evidence that he's denuclearized North Korea?
There's no more rockets in the air.
Oh, really?
Oh,
no,
so
they're
not testing them.
No, they're not, and they've been dismantling them.
Really? And you have evidence of that effect?
Do you have evidence that he's sending rockets?
Secretary Pompeo testified that they're still making fissionable material.
I will give him credit for meeting with Kim Jong-un because at that moment I was actually proud to be an American. I didn't like him.
What did you like about it?
I thought that it was presidential. When I saw him meet with Kim Jong-un, I was very proud on something that nobody could have accomplished ever.
I just feel that his back and forth and this Twitter tirades about every little criticism that anybody makes about him is upsetting. Coming from a leader that he's the leader of the free world, and he really needs to act with a little more dignity than the childishness.
To see the President of the United States attacking individuals, to see the President of the United States have no sort of moral voice anymore, in my estimation, given his inability to, frankly, tell the truth on a consistent basis. That is terribly harmful, I believe, for America's standing in the world, for the way that we interact with each other as citizens.
I have never felt so free in my speech, in my faith in this country, because we have our president, Donald Trump. I have a champion in the White House today who is fighting against this scourge that's ruining our country.
If people really want to change this country instead of just bickering, go to the polls, vote them out, and that's it.
I thought that was an interesting point to end on because, again, these are all Trump voters. These aren't Hillary voters fighting with Trump voters. And so I think his point was all the division, all of the fighting, let's stop that and take action. So on whichever side you're on, you have a vote, you can take action at the polls, and let's all stop fighting between us.
I think that was interesting. I also think it's fascinating. We often like to say that foreign policy doesn't play in U.S. elections. It's all the economy stupid. But what you see is the impact of foreign policy seeping into domestic views there in two ways. Number one, the Trump Putin summit, we really have seen an impact here domestically where Democrats and Republicans are looking at the president differently now since he stood side by side with Vladimir Putin.
Saw personified in Chris Gagan there, who resigned in protest over that.
And I think that's fascinating. The flip side of that is North Korea, where I do think that domestically, in a political sense, the North Korea summit has benefited the president because people have looked at it and said, sometimes the way he approaches things gets some results. In this case, the result is a side-by-side with Kim. It isn't necessarily denuclearization yet, but you do see Democrats and Republicans pause there, and it might make them look at other things that he does differently.
Well, also that he broke the mold. I think that what Jeremy was saying there, what he really liked was that the president broke the mold on North Korea, and nobody else had done that. But you also saw that just because the president says something, like North Korea is no longer a threat, some of his voters then take that and run with it. And Bianca thought that North Korea had denuclearized when all the evidence from our intel chief says that is the opposite.
Look, words
of what's
definitely matter there. But it does make me wonder whether or not the White House will push for another meeting with Kim before November, if they do think that it will have some domestic political ramifications.
Interesting. Thank you, John Berman.
Thank you. That was really interesting.